Dr. Sufron, tell me your credentials again.
I'm a board-certified obstetrician gynecologist, and I also have a doctoral degree.
Yes, ma'am. And you're a professor?
I'm a professor at Johns Hopkins University.
And the medical school, or?
In the School of Medicine and at the School of Public Health.
Okay. You're a chaired professor, or?
I am not.
Okay. All right. But you represent, or you are a part of the Johns Hopkins system?
I am,
Yeah.
but I'm not representing Johns Hopkins today.
Understand. Well, if we're going to solve this problem, we've got to be candid with each other. Do you have a Twitter account?
Thank you, Senator, for your question, but I'm here today to talk about my expertise on reproductive health care for incarcerated women.
Is your Twitter account jail care?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Liberty Trigger. Today we're breaking down a Senate hearing that should have been about addressing the real problems inside our prisons: solitary confinement, abuse, medical neglect, and yes, basic accountability. But instead, what do we get? More political grandstanding, more leftist virtue signaling, and a professor who seemed more interested in pushing her activist worldview than fixing the problem she was brought in to discuss. Let's get into it. First, I want to commend Ms. Umberger and Ms. Elbowy. These women, one formerly incarcerated and another whose daughter was behind bars, had the courage to come forward and share deeply personal and painful experiences. That takes guts. Their stories were emotional, moving, and exactly what this hearing was supposed to be about. Real lives, real suffering, real reform needed.
And thank you for calling this hearing. Ms. Umberger, you were in a Georgia state prison?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. And Ms. LeBoy, am I saying your name right?
Yes, sir.
Your daughter was in a state prison?
Yes, York Correctional.
And Georgia?
York Correctional in Connecticut.
In Connecticut?
In Niantic, Connecticut,
Okay.
yes.
Well, I want to thank both of you for coming. It's, I mean, your testimony was instructive, but that sounds kind of sterile when you put it that way. It was,
Senator Kennedy did the right thing by acknowledging that. He wasn't sterile or cold. He connected with them, thanked them, and promised to continue the conversation. That's leadership. Now, Kennedy pointed out something that every American who believes in law and order should pay attention to: solitary confinement. Look, I'm not soft on crime. Criminals need to be punished. But punishment should be just, not cruel. And if solitary is being abused, if it's breaking people beyond repair, then that's not justice. It's laziness from a prison system that doesn't want to do the hard work of real rehabilitation. Kennedy said he wants law enforcement state officials, and yes, even colleagues like Senator Booker, to be part of the solution. Good. That's how you fix things. You bring all the stakeholders together and hash out real reforms. You don't just cry about it on Twitter or write academic papers no one reads. You solve it. And then we get to Professor Carolyn Sufron from Johns Hopkins. Now,
that is thank you, Senator. That is a Twitter account that is associated with a book that I published in 2017. But I'm really here today to talk about my expertise on reproductive health care and pregnancy care for incarcerated women.
on September 29th of 2018, at 3:33, I'm going to read you one of your tweets. These are your words, not mine. Quote, Piper reminding us that gathering to discuss ending incarceration of women girls. Piper reminding us that gathering to discuss ending incarceration of women and girls is anecdote to white supremacist Kavanaugh shit show. Professor, did I read that correctly?
Thank you for reciting that. I'm really here today to talk about research and improving conditions for incarcerated pregnant women.
Were you speaking for Johns Hopkins when you sent this out?
I was not speaking for Johns Hopkins.
Well, I'd like to solve this problem, Professor. But we're not going to solve it with that kind of attitude. Thank you, ladies, for being here. I appreciate the courage that it took to come forward today.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
She came in as an expert on reproductive health care for incarcerated women. Fair enough. If that's her specialty, we need her insights. But instead of sticking to the science, instead of sticking to her field, what did Kennedy discover? Her political Twitter account, Jail Care. Senator Kennedy asked her point blank, "Did you tweet this?" And he read it out loud. Her own words, comparing efforts to discuss incarceration of women to fighting white supremacy and attacking Justice Kavanaugh. Folks, let's pause right here. This is a problem. We bring in so-called experts, but too many of them are activists disguised as academics. They don't just want to fix prison health care. They want to dismantle the prison system altogether. They don't just want reforms. They want revolution. Professor Sufron tried to dodge. She said, "I'm here to talk about my research." She said, "I wasn't speaking for Johns Hopkins." Well, sorry, Professor, but your words matter. You can't say one thing on Twitter, call America's justice system white supremacist, bash conservative judges, and then show up in Congress pretending to be neutral. That's dishonest. Kennedy was right to call her out. Because here's the truth. We can't solve America's prison crisis if the people sitting at the table think the entire system is illegitimate, racist, and irredeemable. If that's their starting point, then they're not here to fix. They're here to tear down. As a conservative patriot, here's where I stand. We need strong prisons. We need law and order. Criminals should pay for their crimes. But we also believe in human dignity. Pregnant women in prison should have proper medical care. Inmates should have a fair shot at rehabilitation. Solitary confinement should be used carefully, not as a dumping ground. That's the balance. Tough but fair. What we don't need is ivory tower academics trying to import radical leftist ideology into prison reform. You can't call everything white supremacy and expect people to take you seriously. You can't bash conservative judges and then act shocked when you get pushback in Congress. This hearing was a microcosm of what's happening in America. Conservatives want solutions. We want safer prisons, fairer conditions, and accountability. But the left keeps dragging everything back into the culture wars. Everything is about race, white supremacy, identity politics. And guess what? That distracts from a very real, very human suffering going on inside our prisons. Kennedy said it best. We're not going to solve this problem with that kind of attitude. Exactly. We need serious adults in the room, not Twitter activists with PhDs. So, here's the takeaway, folks. We support real prison reform. We support law and order. We support dignity for the incarcerated. But we reject woke activism masquerading as expertise. Senator Kennedy showed backbone. He thanked the real witnesses. He promised to continue the fight. And he held a so-called expert accountable. That's what leadership looks like. If you agree that America needs common sense prison reform without the woke nonsense, smash that like button, share this video, and subscribe for more patriotic commentary. God bless America, and God bless our pursuit of justice that is both strong and fair.